Thank you for joining us today. I've got Chris with me, and we're going to be talking about customer expectations within the insurance industry and how that's shifting and really driving digital transformation. Chris, before I dive into the questions that I've got for you, can you give everybody an introduction?
Yeah. Hi, Emma. Thanks for having me on your fantastic webinar series. Brilliant to be here. Hi, everybody. So some quick background about myself. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer with CareBridge International, a startup in the insurtech space, where we actually forecast bodily injury medical reserves using big data analytics and so forth. I've been in the insurtech space for about 7+ years now, and really focused on that time around the kind of customer experience, customer journey, digital innovation space. So that led to me creating InsurTech 360, which is a digital channel focused around insurtech content. And also InsurTech Innovators, which is a community that I run on LinkedIn, close to 1,300 people spanning the globe. And really that, the kind of dialogue there is very focused around, innovation throughout the insurance and InsurTech space. So very excited to be here to talk about kind of customer-centric thinking and the insurance experience.
Thank you so much for that. And again, thank you for joining me. So, I like to just kind of start with level setting questions. And so, to get us started, can you share a little bit about the evolution of the customer experience and expectations within the insurance industry and how that's really driving the need for digital transformation today?
Yeah. So I think when I kind of entered the insurance space. I'm not originally from the insurance industry, like I think like a lot of us who end up here. It was quickly apparent to me that from a customer experience point of view, there are lots of things wrong with how how and where customers fit into the value chain. And I think a lot of the challenges around really customer service, lack of transparency, looking at how as an industry there's a kind of a disconnect, I believe, with insureds and kind of with the younger generation around the kind of critical role that insurance plays in our lives, but at the same time, the reputation that perhaps it has in the industry. So, I think very quickly with InsurTech emerging as kind of a think tank around, what does it mean to be a customer within the insurance industry? Very quickly there was kind of a swell of support for looking at perhaps insurance through a more customer-centric lens. And I think that trend initially maybe started off as a bit of a niche, as a bit of a kind of, we had some core big thinkers in that area who were focused around customer experience. But I think a lot of those methodologies that perhaps drive customer-centric thinking and have now really found their way into the incumbent space and are almost kind of must-haves for any company looking to build a good customer-centric product. Lots of things that we can maybe dive into today that people are now thinking about, and perhaps it's becoming a bit more common to talk about.
So that is the perfect segue into my next question. Kind of looking at, can you dive into maybe some of the challenges that you see some of those incumbent insurers running into when it comes to meeting these new and kind of ever-changing expectations of the customer?
Yeah. So, I think, we've heard a lot obviously about the impact of the pandemic on the customer experience, and perhaps how that has, in my mind, magnified some of the frailties or some of the friction that exists across the insurance value chain. And I think that from a customer point of view, I think the frustrations have always been the same, right? So when you look at, let's pick a vertical, health insurance, for example. It's one of those areas where there's, for me, a complete lack of transparency, right? So when it comes to trying to align what something costs with what you get, there has been a challenge around understanding what am I paying for and what do I get for it. And I think with the pandemic, that really kind of shone a spotlight upon a lot of the fear that exists within the kind of insurance or insured communities around, what am I covered for? What's it going to cost me? And am I covered for the right type of thing? And I think that, certain, from a customer experience where perhaps you don't have complete transparency into what you're covered for and whether you're covered for the right type of insurance needs, that for me is perhaps an area where insurtechs have been and still are, refining that particular model and experience and trying to plug some of those gaps where perhaps, where we need coverage and we don't have it, they're able to do it quite quickly with much greater transparency.
Thank you. And so when we take a look at the innovations, and you kind of started to get into this idea of like increased transparency and how that's changing the way that we're interacting, what other types of innovation have you seen, whether it's coming from incumbent insurers partnering with insurtechs or insurtechs on their own, changing the way that we're interacting with our customers? What innovation have you seen that's really shaping what that future of insurance looks like?
That's a great question. I mean, I think what I'm starting to see is, I think especially on the incumbent side, kind of starting there perhaps is kind of incremental improvements that have a knock-on effect to create a better, more frictionless customer experience. So, for instance, thinking about digitizing documents, thinking about how to create an infrastructure and an environment that does open the door to kind of innovation or innovative thinking. So, I think the challenge with, when we talk about digital transformation, when we talk about, how do companies get started on this journey, sometimes the focus is perhaps on the technology, thinking about chatbots, thinking about AI, machine learning, and not so much perhaps on the building blocks that have to be in place to facilitate those types of improvements. So, I think within the incumbent space, I personally think that there is still an acceleration, or there has been, I think, over the past 18 months around innovative thinking. I think that the majority of incumbents are utilizing some form of cloud-based technology, and really trying to build and create an environment and a culture that is that kind of fosters this type of innovation and kind of customer-centric thinking. So, I think there's a lot there to be positive about. I think the challenges are the ones that we still hear and talk about now, right? With legacy technology, legacy architectures, having the ability to wrap APIs around some of these things, and is obviously a plus. We don't necessarily need to rip and replace everything, but I think the bigger picture of how we integrate these pieces of technology, how do we do it in a way that's still creating this kind of human level experience, but perhaps is augmented by technology and intelligent automation. I think that there's still a challenge there to maybe figure that bit out. I think in terms of the building blocks, some good efforts are being made there, but then thinking about the customer journey, thinking about what how do we start, how do we leverage people, process, technology, and data in a way that's kind of finely tuned across the insurance value chain. That I think is where we'll kind of see some of those challenges further ahead. And I think, as I ramble, I think insurtechs have had a bit of a head start there, right? I mean, obviously starting for the most part net new with their tech stacks, leading very much from the off with a very customer centric mindset. I think that has enabled them to perhaps get a head start in that space, but at the same time, I think we are starting to still see collaboration between both of those areas, and that's a win-win for everybody.
Wonderful. I'm here for the ramble because I thought it was interesting. So
Very kind.
I want to thank you for taking the time to chat with me today. And I want to encourage everybody who's joining us to make your way over to Chris's LinkedIn, as well as make sure that you're getting involved in the different groups and, making sure that you're getting involved and leveraging the tools that are available for you on LinkedIn to connect with other like-minded people and keep the conversation going. Thank you very much, Chris, for joining me today. And thank you, everybody, for joining us, and have a wonderful day.
Cheers, Emma. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
If you're looking for expert tips on how to get started with your transformation or looking to hone in on your approach, make sure that you subscribe to our channel to catch our weekly Digital Transformation Talk series, where we interview experts from around the world on how to make it happen.